Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 39 of the Natural Female Muscle Podcast. This week on the podcast, we are joined by a very special guest. This is an episode I've been organising since the very start of the podcast. So it's only fitting for this episode to be released pretty much as we approach our 1 year anniversary as well. As this week's guest is actually one of my biggest inspirations in bodybuilding, and that is Claire GUIRGUIS. Claire is a natural women's bodybuilder. She competed for the first time in 2020, and since then she has won the UKDFBA British Twice, become INBA World Champion in 2021, INBA European Champion in 2022, where she earned her PNBA Pro status, and then went on to play second at the Pro Natural Olympia, making her literally one of the best natural female bodybuilders in the world. It's an absolute pleasure to have her on the podcast today, and I can't wait to be able to dive into both the journey and the mindset of a true champion. So, Claire, thank you so much for coming on today.
I don't know what to say. I feel a little bit emotional. You're too kind, honestly. I'm really honored to be on your show, my love. Honestly, I'm very grateful and thank you for that amazing introduction.
Oh.
Slightly blushing at the time, but yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're so welcome. I mean, like we're obviously good friends off the camera and off the mic, and you know exactly what you mean to me in my bodybuilding process because I'm always telling you you're a huge inspiration to me, as I said before we started recording. So, to be able to actually talk to you a bit more today, I'm sure like so many other people who are listening to this will have looked up to your journey. I know you won't think that, but they will have. It'll be so nice for everyone else to hear, but also just for me to be nosy and ask you loads of questions today as well.
Well, I'm very grateful for you to have me on, honestly, and you're a very good inspiration for me as well because I watch you a lot. So yeah, I'm flattered, hon. I am very flattered. So thank you.
Amazing. So, right, we'll dive straight into it.
Okay, okay,
I
let's do
think
it.
the best place to obviously always start with any of these episodes, and honestly, just for people to get a good context of like I think it's so easy to just see where you're at now. And it's like, okay, what actually makes Claire? What kind of was the thing that went on for you, like even growing up, that's brought you into, the psyche and the way that you think with everything now? So, what were things like for you growing up? What was the context for you when it came to sport and just like your overall general upbringing on that side of things?
Well, I came from quite a sporty little background. My mum was always like a keen swimmer at school. I think she did quite a lot of nationals for the school and things like that. And so she always, encouraged us to be, get into like out of school activities and things. My brother and my sister both did, some sort of sport. So I got into dance and gymnastics pretty early on, probably around like 4 years old, and did did both until about 13 or 14 years old. And then I knew gymnastic kind of like took off a little bit more, and
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that side of it more. So I knew that that would have to be kind of like my focal point because it was very difficult to do both at the same time. So I
Mm.
was doing gymnastics probably about 6 days a week after school and like full days on weekends and stuff. So it was pretty intense and I did pretty well at it. We did like you start off on like a four-piece or whatever, and then I think I went on to do tumbling and acro and yeah, I did pretty well, got to like the British finals in acro, um, which was great. Just missed out on going to Russia, which was a shame.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, so I mean, I love the sport. I mean, it was a sport where you had to be strong,
Mm.
and I think it taught me a lot. It was a great foundation, like to work from. Um, Yeah, it was great. It was a great time in my life. I think I got to probably 17 and that's when we'd done that British finals. And I think after that point I was like, how much further can I take this?
Yeah.
And I think at that point as well, you're at school, you're doing your A levels, about to do your A levels, or you're doing them or whatever. And there's a social side of it that you're missing out on as well. So
Mm.
I think I kind of got to that point where I thought, okay, we need to focus on school now, because there's only a certain lifespan of being a gymnast, and unless
Yeah.
you're hitting, unless you're the elite,
Mm,
not much more that you can go on. And at that point, you already know whether you're going to be or not. And I wasn't. And I think you kind of got to make those decisions, which I'm glad I did.
yeah.
So yeah, we got hit about 17, and then decided like that was that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, like gymnastics is one of those sports that you kind of retire so young compared to
Yeah.
the sports as well. So it's
Um,
like you're sacrificing those like youthful years for something that you won't be able to kind of do forever. And you've got to either really want it or, like you say, be at that elite level to decide if it's kind of like the best decision for you, I suppose.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But very grateful to have been able to experience it, really. Yeah.
Yes. It definitely like it instills so much in you because there's not many people who go from being like literally 4 years old, always having something that they're kind of like working out, or at least they've got practice or they've got this and that. And like you said, at the peak, you're training like 6 days a week. You know,
Mm.
there's something that probably gets kind of like wired in you, like not even just like physically with what you're capable of, but it's like mentally, isn't it? More than anything,
Yeah.
got that work ethic.
Definitely, definitely. And I think it's that competition within yourself. You know,
Mm,
I think it's that ability to know that you're competing with yourself all the time, and you want to kind of get better at something. And I think that's a great foundation for any young kid, really, if they want to get into some sort of sport. Is like it it it's not, it doesn't just stay with you in sports. It that mindset stays with you through in all aspects of your life, whether it's work or whether it's whatever. I think it's yeah, I think it's I'm grateful to my mum for to push us that way. I think it was, yeah, it's good. Yeah.
nice. Did you ever actually find like I know you said it's obviously within yourself, but I don't know a huge amount about gymnastics. So tell me if I'm completely wrong. But did you ever find it was difficult with like, for example, like comparing to others or being at competitions with gymnastics? I suppose it's such a similar thing to bodybuilding and also in the way that things are scored. But was that ever something that you found difficult, or were you always just like focusing on yourself and your own kind of progress and process within gymnastics as well?
Think within your own, I think within your own clubs, you
Mm.
obviously that you were up against other people that you were competing against. So yeah, there was always that element side of it as well. It's not like now, when you can get onto Instagram and you can go and see what
Yeah.
people are like. It was never like that. I mean, I didn't have a phone or anything. So,
Yeah,
you
right.
don't know what you're gonna get until you rock up to a competition who you're competing with. But
Mm.
you kind of knew the good clubs that you were going to be up against.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, there's always that element of competition with other people. But I don't think you realize it's the competition within yourself until later on in life. Do you know what I mean? I don't think your
Yeah.
mind sort of registers with that until you kind of get a little bit older and stuff. But yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
But what was it like for you then when you actually did decide to take that step away from gymnastics? Because it was obviously the right thing for you to do at that point, but you go
Yeah,
from basically being like a child athlete to
yeah.
then not doing really anything at all. Like what was that process and that time as a whole kind of like for you?
Do you know what? I think at the age of 17, I think there's a lot going on at the age of 17. I
Mm.
think as much as I can remember anyway, it's
Yeah.
long ago, but you've got that social side of things. You're finding yourself a lot more, aren't you, at that age? You're trying to understand who you are. I mean, we're all still trying to find out who we really are, but as in, and there's and school and A levels takes a
Mm.
lot out of you as well. And I think it kind of, I didn't feel like there was a hole, which was, I didn't feel like I'd missed it. I think I'd done enough of it without feeling like I needed to go back to it. And I think like it was which was obviously the right choice to make. So I think it was a time where I just wanted to focus more on being out with friends,
Mm.
socializing, doing what I needed to get done at school in order to, because you've obviously then thinking about what you're going to do as a job, and obviously like learning to drive. And so there's lots of different elements at that sort of age where, your life is already consumed by quite a lot. So yeah, I don't think I really felt like that there was a hole really at
And
that point.
I suppose you also had kind of like missed out in a way on so much socializing
Yes. Yeah.
that it's not like you were going to kind of miss that, especially when that time in your life is something that you only get at that one point as well. You're not only
Yeah.
17 once, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, bring those days back. They were good times. But yeah, no, completely. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then how did all of that then transition to you actually finding your way back to even training? Because I'm assuming after then you maybe took a while away from maybe not doing anything if like you say like it's a busy time in life like doing your A levels you're then trying to figure out just life in general, so like what was that kind of like in between process for you like, and then how did you end up finding your way towards like ultimately training?
It was quite a big gap actually, because I'd done my A levels and then I went to university. And to be honest, I didn't do any sort of training whilst we were in university. Again, you're so engulfed in the whole university life, that, I don't need to go to the gym. I'm going to be like out or, and my course was pretty intense as well. Um, and I just wanted to absorb that moment because you don't get those years back.
No, no.
Um, and I think, I went through university and I came out the other side of that, and I started working. I even moved down to London. I think the only exercise that I did down in London was I think joined street. Well, I did join a street dancing class or whatever.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that was my activity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and then I came back to the Midlands. And it wasn't until I actually moved back to Leicestershire, which was around maybe like 2009 and 10.
Mm,
And then I was like, okay, I've got some time now. And I
mm,
think at that point, I can't remember how old I was, but I was like, okay, I think I need to do, I wasn't really happy with my body composition, I
mm,
think, at those points. And I wanted to get back into the gym and I wanted to do some sort of training. But I think it wasn't until like maybe like 2010, 2011 that I actually went back to a gym.
mm.
It's quite a long space, to be fair,
Yeah.
quite a long period of not doing too much. So yeah, I signed up to a gym probably about 2010, 2011, and I was just purely like a cardio bunny.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
oh, I need to get thin, I need to get thin, let's get thin. And I was doing a lot of spin work,
Mm.
which was great. I loved it. People shouting at you and oh yeah. And doing a little bit of weights. And I didn't really know what I was doing in the gym, really, to be quite honest with you. I was just lifting weights around.
Just winging
And
it.
yeah, do you know what I mean? It was just like, let's have a go at this. And it wasn't anything heavy, do you know what I mean? It was just, I just needed to do a bit of weight work in my head. That's what I thought. And I remember I wanted to be like Andrea Brazier. Do you know Andrea Brazier? Andrea, yeah, you're not too young, actually. She was like a fitness model,
Okay.
right? And I remember downloaded her fitness program, uh, and I wanted to be like her. So I downloaded this program and I took that to the gym with me. And and that was my training regime, whatever.
Immense.
Yeah, and then which was fine to a certain point, and I
Mm.
thought, and then I started working with a PT around that sort of time after, because I didn't, like I said, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and
Yeah.
he taught me quite a bit actually. He taught me how to train, pretty well in the gym, and he sorted me out a diet. And at that point, I think, like I mentioned to you that I wasn't eating properly at those
Yeah.
times. I was yo-yo dieting, or I wasn't eating, or my 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 relationship with food probably wasn't the best, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. So, that sort of structure of, introducing a proper diet to me was, the best thing really also that could happen. So it was a good starting point. And I remember, well, I think I worked with him for a couple of years, and we had planned to go on to do a competition.
Okay.
Um, but for one reason or another, that never happened.
Mm.
Um, so I just kind of went back to the gym with the knowledge that I had in my head, and I got introduced to powerlifting, um,
Okay.
which was like a different aspect, which, I loved the fact of being strong in a gym.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I can, let's see what this is, right. And the guy, Chris Alamaki, I think his second name is, I can never remember to say it properly. But he was great, and he taught me a hell of a lot, how to lift properly,
Yeah.
you know, like proper sets, rep ranges, it was a different element of um a different side to the gym in a sense that I'd never seen. And I remember we did a competition, and did quite well in that competition.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, but it wasn't. I think ultimately I was getting stronger, but I wasn't seeing the results in my physique that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Um, And so I kind of said, right, done that. Let's go
Yeah.
back to the gym again.
Yeah.
And worked with a couple of PTs, and then that was when I met Zac Fotheringham. Yeah,
That's immense. So you've
yeah,
known Zach for ages then?
yeah, yeah, for a while, for quite a while actually. Yeah, you forget how long. I think from about 2017, 2018, I've
Mm.
known him. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, he's brilliant, brilliant guy.
Rest
Yeah,
is history there from you too, really.
yeah,
But obviously, then when you kind of started working with Zach, 'cause Zach's obviously like since you obviously started there, it's your whole career and everything's gone in such a different direction. You've gone
yeah.
from starting with Zach as a PT, you're now a pro bodybuilder. Like that's a crazy, crazy journey there.
Mm.
But what were the like initial things that just changed when you started working with Zach? I don't know if he was actually like online coaching at the time. Was it just in-person stuff that you were doing with Zach or
It was yeah, I can't. It wasn't online stuff, definitely no, because he lives in Leicestershire. I met him in the
yeah.
gym. So we were like and we just he was actually training, he was actually coaching the PT that I had at the time.
Oh, okay.
So and I was like, and she was a female,
Yeah.
and I could see like the results that she was getting, and I was like, I want some of this. And she knew that she couldn't quite get me. She didn't know as much about diet and stuff. She could train me, but I wanted like the full package sort of thing. And so we started having conversations, and I was like, right, I want to work with you. But
Mm.
it was never to like never in my mindset to go on stage, to be
Yeah.
fair, at that point. I was like, um I want to get into a real I want to have a good physique. I want to train well in the gym. I want to have a good diet. And so we started working together, and like you say, I mean, it was just a different ball game, like a different.
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Is that me?
I think
That's
That's Siri picking up on you.
shut up, Siri. Go away. It's so annoying. You don't even ask him a question and they ask for questions. Right. And so we did a few cuts for holiday,
Yeah.
um, which was, yeah, great. And I think I mean, like I say, it was a different ball game, like the structure of his plans, the food. We had like proper conversations about initially starting off. Do you know what I mean? Um, and so it wasn't until I'd done my second cut, I think, for my holiday, and I came back, and I started to think about, okay, because people sometimes say to you, have you thought about competing? I was like, no. And then they ask you, people are like, have you thought about competing? I was like, no. And then someone, maybe I will start thinking about it a little bit. And okay, we'll think about it. And Zach was like, you should think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point where I kind of thought, okay, why not? Let's maybe have a think about it. And we had a proper chat about it. And that's when we decided that we'd do the UKDFBA show in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was 2020, wasn't it? In my brain.
Yeah, it was the year of COVID.
Yeah, it's the year of COVID, that lovely year of COVID.
Oh.
And so that was the goal. Yeah, we kind of had initial conversations in 2019, and it was for the following year to do that show. And I remember I didn't have a Scooby-Doo about bodybuilding really at all. And I was thinking in my head, bikini, big yeah, that's what I want to do. And Zach's like, I don't think that's gonna work.
No.
Maybe physique. So I was like, and I remember thinking in my head, I don't want to be hench. I did actually say that to him at the time. I don't want to be hench. He's like, Claire, you're not going to be hench. But that just shows the little knowledge that I had about it at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's that sort of preconception for most people that don't know about it. It's, about women's bodybuilding. But I think that's the point where I thought, okay, I need to do some serious research on this in order to know what I need to be like. So yeah, that was the start of it all, really, end of 2019.
Did that mindset then kind of change for you a lot then with the way that you viewed competitive bodybuilding from initially being like, I don't want to look hench, to then obviously, I think there's like a mix of it, because it's like you start to like the idea of having muscle more, but then it's also probably linked with the fact that you realize that having muscle isn't a bad thing as a female, and it can be a really feminine and like sexy thing to have too.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's funny how your mindset changes. Like I loved to be strong, but I think it's not until you start seeing people, natural bodybuilding, I would say, that you realize how beautiful the sport is. It is feminine. We're not on there looking like men. We present a level of muscularity that is very feminine, but it's also very empowering, and it's also it's empowering as a woman to be able to show that, I think. And I think we should be able to show that without feeling, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Not confident about it. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Like trying to hide it away or shy away from it.
Yeah.
That's always the way that I see it, because I always think it's like you're kind of trying to embrace yourself to the fullest extent and being like, I'm strong and I am me and this is me, like doing everything, rather than kind of being afraid of that. Which I find really cool. And I know that you've been doing a lot of like dance and stuff lately as well. And I always find that also showcases your confidence and also like your femininity so much more as well, which I think is such a beautiful message to be able to put out there too.
Yeah, I think we can be many things, can't we? I think we can be many things and show ourselves in many different aspects. And I think it's just growing that confidence in order to be able to show that without feeling sensitive or uncomfortable about it, or where you have to explain yourself about it. And I think the older that you get, I think you feel more confident in that way. And I think you can look strong. You can be strong in a gym. You shouldn't have to shy away from it. You can also look very feminine in a gym. You can be whatever you want to be, and I think bodybuilding's, for me, has allowed me to open up a lot of maybe closed off areas in my head, or opened up a lot more allowed me to be more confident in myself, whether people like that or not. And I think that's another thing, is it doesn't matter. And I think you've got to become at one with yourself a little bit more, and not have the fear that not everybody's going to like it.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to agree with it, but as long as you do, and the people that you surround yourself with, that's the most important thing, I think.
Absolutely, because there's always going to be people who don't like bodybuilding. That's fine. Like not everyone likes everything. I don't like football, like that's
Exactly. But that's our own choices, and everybody has got the freedom of to do whatever they do and please. So yeah.
But I think you do an amazing job with like displaying like the women's bodybuilding category, especially because I think that, like you say, especially as a natural female bodybuilder, it's so different to what a lot of people think of when they think about women's bodybuilding. It's so different. Like, you go to any like show and you look at the women's bodybuilders on stage, like at natural top level, and you'd be like, whoa, like I just think that's incredible. And it's so different to what people think when you see them on stage, but also when you see you off stage as well, because like, then this is not to your discredit, but when I see you off stage, like you're just like a normal person, but you're like fit and healthy and you've got an incredible body, and I think that a lot of people are kind of put off by that. Even new bodybuilders that would probably do really well in women's bodybuilding, they're like, oh, I don't want to look manly. And I'm like, you're not going to look manly, you're going to look amazing. And I think it's really good that you put that message out there to show that to not only like people outside of bodybuilding, but people inside of bodybuilding as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's that preconception of what it is, and I think until you actually go to a show and you actually see them on stage, when I go on, last time I went on stage, I was like 95 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. That's not big,
No.
right? It's little. You're like a small child when you come on stage. It's just how you present, you pop, you pop on stage, you've got the lighting, you're at that point where you're at your most conditioned, hopefully.
Yeah.
But when you walk, you're not tensing and you're not posing, you're not, you're just not. And I think, like I say, there's this preconception of when you look at that stage on the Olympia stage, of I think most people see women's bodybuilding as that.
Yeah.
And I think it's we've got, not many people know about natural bodybuilding, just fact. But I think the more that we do, the more that what you guys do, I think will it's just a way to open up those doors and let more people see. I mean, for me, like women's bodybuilding in the 90s, 80s and 90s, that's the pinnacle of what women's bodybuilding should be like, because they had a lot of muscularity, but they were at the same time
stunning.
they were incredibly feminine. Do you know what I mean? And that in itself, that's what I'd like to bring. That's what I want to bring to the stage, and that's what I personally think that's what women's bodybuilding should look like. And I think, with the UKDFBA Federation and what we've seen, recently, I think that's what has been seen. And it's unfortunate that it's not a category that is a massive category, but we are seeing it grow.
Yeah, there's more of it, sure.
Yeah, and I think for me, I want to be able to show, and I think for most, I mean, look at Michelle, look at Leah Merritt. I mean, they're incredible athletes, and I look up to them massively. And I think we all want to encourage more people to come into that category, because it's like it's got levels to it. It's just got a lot of levels to it, and hopefully we'll see more of more people coming through.
Yeah, I definitely think that in like 5-10 years time, the scope will hopefully change quite a lot, because obviously you've got up and comers like Meg, who's gonna like dominate massively. You've got like even like Zena competed last year. She did women's bodybuilding and BNBF just to trial it, and she loved it. And I'm trying to egg her on to go down that route. I think there's a lot of us that are now able to see like that's where we want to be. We know it takes time, but I think that hopefully as we get to a point where we can be competitive there, it will be. And you're the type of person who's paving the way for that as well. And I think that's amazing. So thank you for doing all that you do on that front.
Oh, I mean, it's not. I just think it's an opportunity, isn't it? I'm grateful to be able to be able to be part of, part of that sort of team, and we just, yeah, yeah, yeah.
we could end up talking about that discussion for hours.
I know, yeah.
But when you obviously actually did that prep in 2020, like you said, the
Yeah.
goal was actually to do women's physique, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That's the goal today.
yeah.
So what was the situation that happened there?
As in
On the day you
on
were
the day. Oh yeah, so on the day, it was a mad show, because we'd obviously gone through pretty much the whole year in COVID, hadn't we?
Did you have to, did you have to prep for a few weeks longer that year? Because I thought
the show was cancelled, I think, in September.
Yeah.
But thankfully there was like an opening. And so Lee said, right, the international one, everybody should come to that, because I think, and literally I think it was like a 2-week gap, and I think then after that show I think we went back into COVID again, as far as I remember.
So lucky.
It was it was mad. So there were a lot of competitors. There were actually quite a lot of competitors, but just nobody in the audience.
Yes.
But and I remember I took 2 friends with me. Thank God, honestly, bless them. They sat in the car with a laptop and watched me.
Oh.
I know, it was so nice of them to come. But yeah, that show. So it was a mad one. Oh, I mean, Paula Cox was up there, and I was looking to Paula the whole time, like she was like phenomenal. Oh my God! And
Yeah.
it was a big lineup, and I felt like me and Zach, we were like we're in good nick. We're okay. I think we're in a good space for it. We're in a good place. And I remember going on stage, and it was quite a long, there's quite a lot of rotations going on. And I remember coming out of it and standing at the back and thinking, I think I've done all right. I mean, I was obviously the smallest, shortest person on stage, but then I'm just always going to be the case, isn't it? So, and then I didn't place. And I remember looking to Zach and I just shrugging and thinking, okay, fair enough. We did what we did. We did with the best that, we couldn't have done any better, particularly in that year as well. And then I remember one of the team, before you come off stage, they're giving you like your medals and stuff. And he said, we want to talk to you towards the back of the stage, so just hang fire. So anyway, I got off stage and he was like, we think you're in the wrong category. We think we should be doing women's bodybuilding. I was like, right, okay. And they're on next. And I was like, okay, right, okay. And I said, and I didn't know any of the moves, and I didn't know any of the poses. I mean, they're similar. I mean, there's elements of it that are pretty similar to the physique ones. But I was like, he said, would you do it? And I was like, well, I'm here now. Yeah, why not? Might as well. Well, I've got nothing to lose, really. So I like obviously flew my heels off and went on stage, and I don't know how, I mean, I don't even remember, the posing must have been flipping awful. But and I made up some sort of random routine. But yeah, managed, I don't know how, but yeah, won that show. And it was crazy because I think I felt more at ease doing that than I did when I was in a pair of heels and actually, in the category that I thought I was meant to be competing in. And I came out of that show and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt really comfortable doing it as well. And I think the posing and the being able to do a routine with, and do a routine and stuff, I really enjoyed doing it. Yeah. So it was kind of like another door opened. Yeah.
Yeah, it opens your eyes to a lot of then like actual opportunities ahead and thinking like, oh, okay, like this is something that feels kind of natural in a sense. Because like you say, I mean, to be fair, it's never really natural wearing heels. They feel awful.
They
But
do, they do. It's weird, isn't it?
oh, they're awful. Honestly, it's one of the main
And
reasons I want to be in women's bodybuilding so I can get them off.
yeah, it's awkward. It feels awkward, doesn't it? It does feel awkward. But
Uh,
yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool that you obviously did come away with that. I was at that show watching AJ because he competed, but obviously because of the COVID stuff, I couldn't see your bit of the show, but I was watching it on the live stream as well. And I was like, bloody hell, she's awesome. Because you kind of like did like say you came out of nowhere, but you fitted that category just beautifully. And I didn't know that you'd even gone for women's physique because I just thought she looks great in the bodybuilding pose. And, it looks so kind of like natural and like where you belong. And I think that's always such a green flag, isn't it, really, for your place in bodybuilding and being able to see where you want to go ahead. So did that
Mm.
definitely solidify kind of like your vision for where you saw yourself moving forwards with bodybuilding? Because at the end of the day, it was your first show, and I think that even with your first show, you never really know if this is something that you want to do. You're just kind of seeing how you get on, really, aren't you? So what were your thoughts kind of coming away from that show, but I suppose like the prep as a whole and that whole experience?
Um, I think that yeah, I think something just sort of clicked at that point. And I think when the judge, I think that if you're gonna, it would have to be the category that I would continued in, because it's not until you do a show that you know whether or not you fit into it or not.
Yeah.
You don't quite know what the judge, you have an idea of what the judges are looking for,
Mm.
um, but it's not necessarily always right what you think.
Mm.
And I felt like, I mean, it wasn't a normal prep, obviously, because of COVID and stuff, really, but I knew that I enjoyed it.
Mm.
I knew when I came off that stage that there was more to go on, and it felt exciting for me. And I think that was the point where I thought, I want to really crack at this. And I think your mindset changes to something it goes a little bit deeper at that point. And I think that it was like being a kid again.
Yeah.
It's it was like a whole new world. The UKDFBA team was amazing. Like, the atmosphere is amazing. When you step on stage, it's just a different feeling, and I really you get a buzz out of it, that you get the bug. Everybody says you get the
Yeah.
bug, don't they? And it's very true. As cliche as it is, you get the bug.
You do. Did you
Yeah.
did you then change much at all as you then went into, or obviously came away from that prep because you then decided to compete the year following? I'm assuming you kind of went into what was almost like your first kind of proper off season as such, where you're actually thinking, right, I need to improve or I want to do this to get on stage next year. So did
Mm.
much kind of change for you at all as you came away from that show when it came to, training or just, your general routine and things like that?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, me and Zach we went back to the table again, and it had to be. I think it had to be, because it's it it needed more. It needed more from me.
Yeah.
So I mean, Zach knew exactly what to do. So I mean, in terms of training and food, and that was all in his hands. I just had to literally do what he said, really. Um, Training wise, that got more intense, that got heavier. Split was different. I knew that we had to bring more muscularity. My balance, obviously,
Mm.
had to bring my back up more. Um, because obviously I was very quad dominant. But we still obviously had to train legs as well. So the split changed, um, training wise, heavier. Um, Food went up quite a lot,
Mm.
and I mean, I think I was saying, I was by January, I'd gained quite a lot of food. I mean, it was all, slow and steady, but I'd never pushed food that hard.
Mm.
So in terms of food wise, that was something I had to get my head around a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
I was going to say that must have been like you kind of pushing through discomfort in a very different way because like
yeah.
you'd done all your gymnastics growing up, you knew how to push through physically in the prep, you're pushing through, but it's a different way of looking at things when you're in the off season and maybe when you're getting heavier than, you've kind of never been in the past, I suppose.
Yeah, it's hard being small, isn't it? As a woman as well, when you're small and there's not a lot, not there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's
There's
all like
nowhere. Yeah, and I found that quite a challenge within itself, probably more than everything else, to be honest.
yeah,
I mean, when we started in April, I was 130 pounds. I've never been 130 pounds in my life.
yeah,
Um, and I think just accepting that it it's a period of time that you have to go through. I knew that I had to get stronger. I knew that I had to grow. The only way that you can do that is if you're fueling your body enough to be able to lift the weights that you need to do. And there's a fine line between trying to understand like the reasonings behind it and wanting to fight against that, you
yeah,
know. And I think at those times as well, having a good coach that can put your mind at ease with that when you're having those moments of like, I don't need all this food.
mm,
I don't want to be, because there's points where you can't physically eat anymore,
yeah,
and it's hard to do it, it's hard to do. But and then you go in, you've got to build that relationship with your coach to know that you can talk to them about it and they can put your mind at ease with it and know like it's a set point that we've got to get to. And from that point, it will come down. But in order for you to achieve what you need to achieve, this is the what we've got to do. So yeah, I think that side of it was probably the hardest for me.
mm.
Um, and then training wise, and I mean training, you love to train, don't you? So get me in a gym. I mean, I'm ready for it. Um, and I think every prep is different, isn't it? Every prep is different. And it's just managing everything. It's just making sure you're ticking all those boxes all the time. So it I think it was a different prep, that one. Maybe that was the harder of the preps that I've done.
Because did you start a bit, because obviously you started at about 130 pounds, didn't you? Was
Yeah.
that heavier than when you'd started your prep in
Yeah.
2020?
Yeah, I was only probably about 115.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That
it's
15 pounds makes a huge difference as well.
makes a lot. Yeah, it does make a lot. And I think it's all right when you're in that sort of gym environment. Sometimes when you step out of that and you've got to go to social things or whatever, you become quite self-conscious about it, because people haven't seen you, for a while, or you almost have to explain that yourself to it. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
I know,
do you know what I mean? It's funny, isn't it? But you shouldn't have to. Shouldn't
no.
have to. But I think as we journey into this sort of world of bodybuilding, I think you become like more understanding of it each time, or as time progresses and stuff, and it doesn't matter as much each time. Do you know what I mean?
I think it kind of bothers you as an athlete less as well. Like, I think the first time anyone makes a comment or asks you something, you're like, oh God, they're thinking this or that. And then I
Yeah.
think the further along you get, you kind of are way more in tune and also just assured in like what you're doing in yourself that it doesn't kind of bother you, I
Bother you?
suppose, as much.
And I think, do you know what? I think, and a lot of it is just in your own head.
Yeah.
A lot of it is in your own head, because I know for a fact that my mum or whatever, you thought so much better that way, and you're like, but I don't want to be this way. I don't want to
Yeah.
be. so massively conditioned and just 95 pounds all the time. But yeah. So, but I think it's a personal journey, isn't it? Each one it's a personal journey more than anything.
Yeah. And with that prep then in 21, so obviously your second year, what was it actually like when you then went to the finals? Obviously you went straight there as a reigning champion. What was that like then going in as the reigning champion and ultimately having now, okay, I won this last year, into this again, and like obviously assuming that you're kind of, well, you know you're capable of winning that sort of show. So what was the thought process for you then going into that second year?
Well, I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I think you also don't know who's going to be there on stage either. So I think my mindset was just get up on that stage and just do the best that you can, really. Again, I didn't expect to win the show. I just wanted to come with a better package, really, and improve on what I'd done that previous year. So yeah, I think mindset wise was just to be better than I was the previous year, really.
And did you feel that as well when you kind of got on stage and even before, because that's like you say, that's the most important thing, isn't it? When you get on, that you have that confidence of like, you know what, I know I'm better and I know I've improved. Because that's all that you can really ask for at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I felt like I'd made some good improvements. You know, when you look at the pictures from the previous to that year, but then again, oh, it's a different category. So you're comparing two different, do you know what I mean? Two different physiques, really. But I thought we were in a good spot for my first one, and obviously, like, yeah, I mean, then did we do the Budapest?
Yeah, Bucharest Worlds.
Bucharest Worlds was after that.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, that was the game plan was obviously like to try and win the show or try and at least get to Bucharest.
Yeah.
Which, was just another new thing for me because I'd never competed abroad before.
The show, I remember the show being very early because you were on like first thing as well, which is
8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you were going to get your makeup done. I think you were there at like 4 a.m. or something.
It was something stupid. It was something stupid at that time, I remember. But at that time, you don't really care.
No.
You don't care. Like, you don't really sleep at that point beforehand that much. I mean, thankfully, Zac came, which was, just having that support from him. And obviously being part of the team, that was an incredible thing because I was, meeting like Michelle and everybody else like that, and just you build like a different family. It's like it is a family of people, and they become your friends, and then they become your social circle of the times of when and Nicola, like, and the times of when you need that people around you, having that opportunity to meet people that are in the same mindset as you, do love it and understands what you do, makes a massive difference to your own progression, I think, as well in this sport, and to also just feel at one with people that understand you, because you need that around you at times, quite a lot of the time. So yeah, that show was it was great for many reasons, that one.
Yeah, I remember you came off stage that day because there was like that weird, like little like courtyard thing, like outside.
Yeah.
There was a coffee shop. We were all kind of stood out, and you'd been on
Yeah.
yeah, you'd been on early, so you were there with your trophy, and I think AJ had either just been on or he was about to go on, and we were all stood out, and you came over and we were saying well done, and you just said, what do I need to do to be better? I remember AJ turned to me and went, she's just won a world title. She's just asking me what she needs to do to be better. And we were saying like that's almost like a a true mindset of somebody who always kind of, I suppose, wants to improve or be your best. Is that kind of always a mindset that you do carry with bodybuilding and with different things as well?
I think with any sort of sport, if you want to kind of be competitive and successful, you have to think like that, don't you, really? You know, if you want to progress in a sport, you've always got to be thinking about what can you do better next time. That's your set point that you finished on. But we can't be there next time because you've got people that are coming up the ranks, like Meg. You know, you've got people that are looking at you and going, right, well, we need to, what can we do to be better than her? So I think you can't be complacent in any sort of sport. I think the good thing about this sport is that, you know, it's got a long life within it. I mean, you look at people like Yvette and you look at people like Dave.
Yes.
Like, you know, they are incredible. I look at them with like such admiration. If we're still doing this sport at like 60 and 70 years old, like winning. So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
that's incredible. But then you've also, like, on the flip side, like I say, you've got all these people that are coming up behind you. You can't stay. You've always got to keep thinking about what the next step is.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. But like you say, it's amazing that we do have like time on our side in this sport, especially, you know, as natural bodybuilders. It's not the same on the flip side of the sport, unfortunately. But that's the amazing thing about what we do is, like, you know, yes, you've got to be careful with prepping and pushing your body to the extremes all the time, but it's not having a huge health risk in the way that, you know, like the other side of the sport is. And you can kind of you just get better with age, really, for the most part, which is pretty cool. But obviously you came away from that prep with an absolutely unreal season, really. And then went into 2022, went again that year. And it's now being kind of like your third year on the trot as such as well. And I know that going into the UK finals in this year and the outcome with that as well, I would describe this year as like a huge year of kind of resilience for you with your season, with how you like turned things around from the first show to the last show. And I'm sure that you'll agree with me on that one as well. But how was that whole year for you when you obviously came into the UKDFBA finals? You came away with third that year after winning it 2 times on the trot. And I know I'd spoken about going in the year prior and knowing that you've won it, but now you've won it twice. You've won the world champs and you're coming in again. And it's your third season in a row, which is that's a big challenge to do 3 seasons back to back as well anyway. So where were you at just mentally, physically, kind of going into that show that year in 2022?
You know what? That it was like the previous year to that. I think I felt good that year. I didn't started off that season slightly lighter, I think, that year as well. And it was a good starting point. My body composition was a lot better. You get a proper flow of prep. Your relationship with your coach is much better. Things were clicking into place, and I think I felt like it was we were you know, by the time we got to that October show, I felt quite confident about that show. But then that show, it was a pretty fair show. There was like, yeah, because I mean, and prior to that, I think there's never been any more than 3 of us on stage.
Yeah, that's true, actually. It's true.
You know what I mean? And it was it was a fight. It wasn't it was like a really competitive lineup, really competitive.
Unreal.
It was mad. And there was the level of competitors was, yeah, and I think maybe when I was on that stage, I think obviously I was the smallest again, and I was pretty the ladies on stage were big.
Yeah, it was a big line. Obviously, like Heather was big, and She was Danish, I think, the lady who came.
Susan,
She was big.
she is amazing. Like her physique for me, she blows my mind. She's like,
Yeah, I
she's
think she's called Susan something.
begins with an F, and I can
Yeah, I
never say.
don't want to butcher her last
No,
name.
I don't, but I know, but she's got an incredible physique.
Yeah.
Incredible. Meg was there,
And
and I
she
remember,
also.
yeah, Julia, wasn't it? And I think I was just trying to be big on stage, and I kind of lost my head a bit, I think, in that. I think I was trying to focus on being big rather than focusing on what I should have bought, what my physique was showing, and I
Like
lost.
worrying too much about what
Yeah,
like relative to the other competitors rather than just worrying about you and being your best self on the day.
yeah, exactly. And I remember coming off stage, and you know what? I wasn't, obviously there was an element of being disappointed, but I felt quite relieved in a sense. It was strange, I think I felt like I'd let other people down a bit more, but like I remember talking to Zac about it, but we knew that we had Budapest
Yeah.
coming, and we had a few weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks in between. And we had there was I knew that I was in good condition. I was never there was never a chance to bring any more muscularity, obviously, no, but I knew that my posing had let me down. I got feedback from the judges. And I knew I could work on that. I knew that if we could bring a little bit of weight down, we could bring a bit of weight down. So we just went back to work again after that show. And I worked with Lucy Walton on the posing, who was like literally amazing. Like most days I'd be like on a Zoom with her, doing like correcting my posing and stuff. And I was actually very grateful in a sense. Not grateful, but I'm glad it happened, because I think you put a lot of pressure. You do put a lot of pressure on yourself. That you've got to, win it again, or that's the expectation of yourself, but also to others as well, that people think you are gonna.
Yeah.
And when you don't, I think it just it obviously makes you dig deeper, doesn't it? It makes you fight more. And when you fight more for something, if you haven't won something, and then you go and fight for it, and then you go and win it, it's that feeling's even better.
Yeah.
And
you obviously proved that so well when you did come around to Budapest. You took that time to, like you say, you kind of just focused back in on yourself so much more, and you made like the improvements in your posing. I suppose you were already in such epic condition that year. I think like you were definitely the leanest that you'd ever been by far, which was obviously already cool. But I think when I saw you on stage in Budapest, you just looked so much more confident, but also you had that fire in you. Like I think I could really see that in you on stage as well. So I think to then, I hate to say like the word like redeem, but you did essentially redeem yourself when you came around, and then you won that, and you won that pro card. And I think from what I saw, that was like one of the happiest times I've ever seen you on stage ever.
I think it probably was. I think I remember. I think the thing is with that show, my mum came with me, which was incredible.
She's amazing.
Isn't she? She's brilliant, bless her. Honestly, she loves it now. I remember she wouldn't come to my first show, and then now I can't get rid of her. She loves it. But yeah, and I mean, and obviously I was on the phone to Zac all the time, and like Lucy with posing. I've just felt a lot more relaxed coming into that show. A lot more relaxed. And I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't. I mean, I knew I had to fight for something, but maybe that it took the edge off a little bit. But I know that I enjoyed that show so much more, and I could see it in my face a lot more. So yeah, when I really wasn't expecting I wasn't expecting to win, to be honest with you. I just wanted to go up on that stage and just enjoy it because I don't remember, I don't know if I enjoyed the previous one quite, as much as I should have done. And then when I got that pro card, it was just, I think I said to the lady, "Are you sure that's for me?" Something like that. Is that for me? Wasn't expecting it. Like that's what made it, I wasn't expecting anything sort of thing. And I think that's what made it amazing, more amazing than, yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, really grateful for it. Yeah.
And as a
It
result, you
was.
actually got to finish your season on such an amazing note with going to the Natural Olympia and doing the pro show there as well. So was that just a really nice way to obviously cap off that season and just, I suppose, finish it on a really, like you kind of even just said there, a really nice note of just enjoying it kind of more than anything else?
Yeah, I think just that whole experience within itself was just an incredible way to like then end that year. I think, we were going away with the team again, the atmosphere. I was gonna, I was with Michelle and Claire, and it was just it was brilliant, really. And I think like just having the opportunity to do another pro show, less pressure as well, just to enjoy the moment, just to enjoy that time on stage. And obviously got to meet Leanne, who was no, I got to meet Leanne previously, didn't I? But just having people around you that you knew. Yeah, it was brilliant, that show. It was really great. And like you say, just not having any expectations and just trying to just do the best that you could. It didn't really matter what the outcome was then. I remember saying to Zac, no matter what happens, we've won it anyway. I was going through my phone, and I was like listening to like some of the messages and stuff like that. It was just quite nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because I was in the room with you. I think it was either the day before the show or 2 days before, because we'd gone for a walk and we were trying to find you a banana. Then we went back to the hotel room, and I remember just asking you about things, and you were saying, I've already had, the greatest prize already this year in, winning the pro card the week before, and just being here is such a bonus and an amazing thing to achieve anyway. And I think that's always such a nice way to finish any season as well.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I'd
Just be
actually,
grateful. Yeah.
exactly, and I'd actually be really interested to hear your thoughts as well on just, like I said there, like the condition that you get into, and especially the condition that you got into in 22 was absolutely incredible. And as you've already said yourself, you're not a big lady, like you're 95 pounds on stage. So, getting into condition when you're also very small, like it can be challenging. And I want to know what your thoughts are on kind of like what it takes to actually kind of get into those levels of condition. Is that something that is actually quite natural for you, or do you have to push quite hard to kind of get to those levels?
I mean, for me, I have to push hard. I have to push hard. I think I gain weight very easily.
Mm-hmm.
I lose weight very slowly.
Yeah.
Not until I get probably like 8. You start to see condition maybe 8 to 5 to 5. I don't know. Well, getting low, but I'm literally doing a lot of cardio.
Yeah.
I'm on, I mean, I think we're maybe on like 900 odd calories. You're doing 80 to 90 minutes of cardio.
Mm.
You're still training in the gym. You still got to get your 15K steps in. I remember Zac saying to me when we were on that flight, on that flight to LA, everybody else is asleep and I'm just walking
Walking up
down the plane. And I'm trying to get my 15K steps in, honestly. Yeah. And even like, yeah. So now It's not hard. It's not, I mean, it's not hard. It is hard,
Yeah.
but it depends on the person. Some people might not need as much, but I know that I do. And you know, I just have to do what Zach tells me to do. And if you have to get into the trenches, which we all, we all know that we have to do at some point, you have to go into the trenches and you have to find a happy place in your head. I mean, you become quite insular at those times. And you try and, you're in a lot of deep thoughts, aren't you, a lot of the time, and you're processing a lot in your own head and having conversations with yourself in your own head. And I remember doing a lot of cardio and or it'd be like at 4 o'clock in the morning, you have to get up and do your cardio in your garage. And I'd be like, it's 40 minutes of your life. It's 40 minutes of your life. And you then get off and you're like, yeah, you did it. Yeah, you did it. But you've got to have those times with yourself. So I think everybody has got to navigate their own way with it. But for me personally, yeah, it takes a bit to do, but like you say, it's different for everybody, isn't it? And just depends how much, how responsive your body is to things. But I know for me, I have to do quite a bit to get there. But like I say, every prep is different, but every prep it becomes a little bit easier. Um, I think you've got to not just, what's the word, condition your body, you've got to condition your mind at the same time. And I think that's a lot of it, is mind over matter. If your mind says you can do it, you can do it. I think you can talk yourself out of a lot of things, but if your mind's saying to you, you can do it, you can do it if you really want to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think your mind's it's one of your strongest kind of tools or powers that you've kind of got available to kind of help get you through those things. But I really appreciate you kind of like being honest and saying like, I have to push myself to get lean, because especially as a fellow sub 5 foot member, I know what it's yeah, I know what it's like. And that's even for me not getting anywhere near, the condition that you've gotten in. But I've had these discussions with even, Nicola from A1 Tanning, and she said the same thing. She's like, I've got to get well below, 1,000 calories and push myself hard. And the thing is, when you're a small lady, like you've got to do that because we're so small. Like being 100 pounds, like, do you know how many calories you burn doing 1,000 steps when you're 100 pounds? Not very many.
Not a lot. It should,
Not a lot.
yeah.
So it's like, I think for a lot of people sometimes listening, because I know so many athletes and most females, we're not very big, even if you're taller, and I think they worry about maybe having to do more, like, oh, should I be doing this much cardio or should I be doing that? And I think at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do to get into condition. And sometimes it's a lot more than people like to paint on social media, because it's a really weird one. Like, I think a lot of people like to brag about how little they've had to do to get into shape. And then for the most part, most people are going to have to do a lot. And you just do whatever it kind of takes at the end of the day to get to the end result, because nobody cares on stage whether you've done 10,000 steps a day or you've done 90 minutes of cardio and 15,000 steps. Whoever looks better is the person who wins. That's the thing that matters.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. You just got to do what you got to do. You got to listen to your coach. You got to do what they say. Put your faith in them, and suck it up.
Exactly.
As that would say, suck it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't be a snowflake.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how it is, isn't it? So, but yeah.
But what's it actually been like for you coming back to now, I suppose, the present moment, having actually taken some time away from competing? Because after, like I said, you've done 3 years kind of back to back, you've kind of had your first time actually away from, as we've just mentioned, going through the trenches a little bit. So how has it been to actually take a little bit of a step back and I suppose have a little bit of a breather as well?
It's actually been it's actually been quite nice.
Yeah.
I think I'd got to after Vegas and the Olympia, and I was gonna go again.
I remember you telling me.
I was gonna go again. you know, you are though, you're so like high on it, and you're like, you know, it's the buzz of it, and like we can go again, and I think I got to like February, and I was tired. I was tired. And I remember Zach, I didn't even have to say anything to Zach because he knows me. And he was
Yeah.
like, do you want a break, mate? And I was like, yeah, I do actually. I didn't want to tell him.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, no, you know, you need it. You know, it's been a long run. And I think initially I was like, okay, I'm gonna take the rest of this year off and then do this year.
Mm.
But I think until you're actually away from it a little bit, and actually away from it a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not talking like a couple of months or whatever, I'm not talking 6, I'm talking like a proper step back, because I think 3 years back to back of competing and prep, because I mean, I know that you say like your prep's only a certain amount of time, but you're literally on prep that whole 3 years, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whether
It's
you're off
really
season or you're on season, yeah, and your body's fluctuating from being in a deficit and then not, and your body never regains its like natural, like I just wanted to just feel a little bit more of my natural weight again. Let my body just, you know,
settle.
find, yeah, settle. And also like more importantly is just remember that, you know, I'm not just about bodybuilding. There's other aspects of our lives that are, you know, if not maybe more important, like family and friends and things like that. And I think I mean, we say it time and time, it's a selfish sport, but it has to be in order for you to do what you need to do. But there are elements of life that are taken away at those points, and I don't think you realize how much sometimes until you step away from it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of just spend a bit more time with family, see friends, be social, more social, because I know that we can still be social, on preps and stuff like that. But just
It's different.
yeah,
You feel
yeah,
present.
yeah, 100%. And you might start thinking, oh my God, I've got to do 15,000 steps after this, or you know, um, so I think yeah, just be a bit more relaxed. So I've enjoyed it, to be honest, and I think, but you know, probably I'm not saying that I'm not gonna. I mean, I want to obviously compete again, um, whether it's next year or the year after that. But I think if I'm gonna do it, I need to have like a proper. I need to have a proper off season, because I mean, and give myself like some time to get back into the swing of things again. But I mean, I'm still training. You know, I'm still eating out of a Tupperware box even at home. I'm not gonna lie, but. Yeah, I mean, training's still there. That, you know, still to get up and do my steps and my cardio. So there's that element of our lives that probably will always be with us all the time. But it's just the competing side that's just took a step back for the time.
Yeah, you get to take a bit of time to not be in a deficit, which I think it helps. It definitely does.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad to hear that you're, having a really nice time, because that's kind of the most important thing. And I think it's like, it's also okay to kind of know that you can take some time away from not just thinking about when you're next getting on stage or when you're doing this. It doesn't mean that you're not, like you say, you're still a bodybuilder, you're still doing all your bodybuilding things. You're
Mhm.
just not thinking about getting on stage immediately, which I think is really good for a bit of like a mental refresh as well, more than anything.
Yeah, you kind of reset yourself again a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you could quite easily not lose yourself in it, but you yeah, just to reset and just think about what other things you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
And you, like I said earlier in the podcast as well, you're actually doing a lot of like dancing and stuff as well, which is,
Yeah, it's just something different. I do like that once a week or whatever, but it's just something different. Just like, because you don't often, because when you're in that, when we're prepping or whatever, you haven't got time to do anything outside of that.
no,
So it's just exploring different avenues of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's so nice to do that. But I think overall, we've had an absolutely amazing conversation today. I think there's been so many wonderful things to take away from this episode. I've absolutely loved it. I've had an
I've
amazing...
loved it as well. Shall we carry on?
I think we could actually go for probably another 5 hours.
You'll have to come around for a cup of tea.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on today, Claire. You've been an absolute pleasure to talk to. And as I said, I've taken so much away from this, but I know that so many other people will as well. So thank you for sharing all your words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing your journey. Do you want to let people know where they can find you on Instagram?
If I can remember what my Instagram is. What is my Instagram? Oh, yeah, I'm so down with the kids. Yep. Here we go. Oh, it's yes, thank you. Okay, so it's Claire_Gurgis_PNBA_Pro. There you go.
Amazing. I'll make sure to pop that down in the description for everyone, so you can go give Claire a follow her along and watch her fantastic journey, and just follow her. She's a wonderful person as well, and she says lots of lovely things. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today, Claire. Thank you everybody for listening. As always, if you've liked this episode, which I'm sure you have, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff, and I'll be back with another episode next week.